On 28 February 2026, Acting Minister in charge of Muslim Affairs, Dr. Mohamad Faishal Ibrahim, issued a stark warning in Singapore. Strikes on Iran and Lebanon and the failure of diplomacy are deeply worrying. He stressed that rising tensions in the Middle East are not just distant headlines. They directly affect civilians there, and they matter to Singapore. Why does a conflict so far away concern a small city-state? Singapore's foreign policy is built on three core pillars: upholding international law, resolving disputes peacefully, and respecting state sovereignty. When diplomacy breaks down and states resort to force, those principles are undermined. For a country that depends on a stable, rules-based global order, repeated violations increase the risk of a more chaotic world, one where small states have fewer protections. There is also a hard economic reality. Singapore imports nearly all its energy, much of it sourced from or priced off supplies linked to the Middle East. Past crises show the impact clearly. The 1973 oil embargo triggered global recession. During the 1990-91 Gulf War and the 2003 Iraq War, oil price spikes rippled through Singapore's economy. In 2019, drone and missile attacks on Saudi Aramco facilities in Abqaiq cut global oil output temporarily and rattled energy markets. Today, fresh strikes on Iran and Lebanon threaten to widen conflict and destabilize critical choke points like the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant share of the world's seaborne oil passes. Any disruption can raise fuel and shipping costs, feeding inflation and affecting Singapore's status as a trading and maritime hub. There is also a security dimension. Prolonged violence in the Middle East has historically fueled radicalization globally. Singapore has, since the early 2000s, disrupted Jemaah Islamiyah plots and worked closely with partners such as the United States, Australia, and regional ASEAN states on counterterrorism and information sharing. Each escalation in the region forces Singapore's security agencies to stay on high alert. Domestically, leaders are acutely aware that images of civilian suffering, whether in Gaza, Lebanon, or Iran, resonate with Singapore's Muslim community and with all who care about humanitarian issues. Government statements typically emphasize 3 points: strong condemnation of terrorism and attacks on civilians, support for international humanitarian law, and the need to protect Singapore's hard-won interreligious harmony. Dr. Faishal's comments fit into this broader approach, recognizing deep empathy for affected civilians, while urging Singaporeans to respond calmly, reject extremism, and rely on verified information. On the diplomatic front, Singapore consistently calls at the United Nations and in bilateral engagements for de-escalation, respect for UN Security Council resolutions, and a return to negotiations. This is not just moral positioning. It reflects a strategic calculation. A less volatile Middle East means more predictable energy flows, steadier trade routes, and fewer catalysts for global polarization. The strikes on Iran and Lebanon, and the sense of diplomatic failure they represent, are therefore a reminder of how interconnected Singapore is with global events. For Singapore, supporting diplomacy, international law, and humanitarian principles abroad is inseparable from safeguarding its security, economy, and social cohesion at home.